What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PixelPlay Podcast, the only podcast where basically all three of the hosts are never actually here, at least for a full month in a row. Because Kaylan away sick today, taking a hit. You know, at some point, Chris, I gotta wonder: do you think his sick days have run out by now? I'm pretty sure he's already taken all his vacation days away with like all these anniversaries and things. Like I'm pretty sure we're getting into the unpaid days at this point.
There's paid days?
Well, moving on to that. Hey, my name is Adam, aka CS Radical. Joined as always is Jin and Chris. We are here to talk about video games. I know, shocking. I was surprised too when we looked at our docket today.
Super shocking.
It's halfway into the year. It was going to be halfway into the year 3 weeks ago, but also every company under the sun decided that they need to show some shit. And now we're finally past that, so now we can actually talk about what we've seen in the first 6 months so far. And me and Chris are going to go through a good chunk of games that we think, have definitely stood out so far that have released in the last, well, I guess we should say like 6 and 2/3 months, something like that. But I mean, realistically, we're looking at basically what's come up in June at this point. And we're going to give our predictions as to what, if the Game Awards, if Jeff Keighley was standing right here, sitting right next to us, as I say, as we're both on two different cameras, so not actually next to us, just one of us, I guess.
Right next to us.
If Jeff just walked into this room right now and told us, what his 6 nominees currently for Game of the Year this year at the Game Awards would be, we are going to go with that. Our rules are going to be a little specific because we're leaving one slot open for an indie game, just because there always seems to tend to be a chance that one of those get put in. Doesn't always end up being the case, but hey. It's kind of nice to give a little bit of good vibes towards the indie community, especially with the way they're really pulling most of the weight this year, it seems. But we'll get to that in a moment. But at this point, I mean, we are planning on also doing another show about, all the other games that are still to come out this year and how that might factor in, but that'll probably be next week. So we'll see about that. For the time being, Chris, what have you been up to? Has there been any changes in your gaming diatribe in the last 7 days?
There has, actually. I've been on a little bit of a gaming journey, and I'm actually sad Kaylan's not here because he would have hated this so much. And just seeing how much he would hate this entire conversation, it's because I am going through the Kingdom Hearts games, which is Kaylan's favorite series of all time. I bought the collection on PS5 a few months ago when it was on sale. I should have waited because it came to Steam like 2 weeks ago, and like, what the heck? But I digress. So it's the reason I decided that I'm actually going to go through all of the games is because I love this series. It's possibly my favorite PS2 game, Kingdom Hearts 1. It was like obviously huge Final Fantasy guy. I'm huge with that. Disney, I'm huge with that. Like it hits all the right boxes. As you know, you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan. But I've only ever played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. And back then it was because, I didn't have all the systems all the games were coming out on. I didn't have a Game Boy Advance in the beginning. PSP, I didn't have that, stuff like that. The only one I did have was a 3DS, which was the Dream Drop Distance. I think that's the one that was on. But I never grabbed that because I think at that point I was like, I'm so far behind. I can't pick up this random side game because I'm not going to know what's going on. And I think I was also a little put off after Kingdom Hearts 2. And the reason being is because I loved that game as well when I picked it up on PS2, but I didn't know what was happening for the first bit of that game because I never played Chain of Memories. And it was kind of like, oh, this is like, you have to play all the games or you're going to be lost. So I've decided I'm actually going to I'm going to play through each game. I'm going to do it in order. It's not going to be the only thing I do or play because there could be my brain will melt. If I play 10 Kingdom Hearts games in a row, my brain will literally fall apart. So, so I started that journey. I played through and beat Kingdom Hearts 1, which I still love. I've played that through like 4 or 5 times in my life, so there was no shock there. I remembered some stuff I'd forgotten because it's been a while since I played, but still loved the game. It was not overly confusing yet. It was everything I'd loved all before, and it's still just amazing. Looks beautiful in these new HD, whatever, like 1.5 and 2.5 releases and all that kind of stuff. The game is still so good, so perfect, hits all the right boxes. But this is where then it kind of goes a little downhill. Have you ever played Chain of Memories, Adam? Yeah, so I was playing Chain of Memories or whichever. It's the PS2 remake of that.
That's where it does get a little bit fuzzy. It definitely takes a step back to what the Game Boy Advance version was. I've played both. It's definitely better. I wish they had just found a way to like emulate the Game Boy version, but good luck getting that away from Nintendo. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, then I have a question. The Game Boy Advance one, do you have to move your character as well as use cards, or is it mostly just card? Okay, so you still have to move the characters.
There is still moving, but it's more of a side scroll, so it's not nearly as as over the top. It definitely makes a lot more sense under the Game Boy Advance version.
I feel like that was my issue because when I was playing it, I'm like, this is like a 3D action game and deck builder, but they're not focusing enough on one or the other.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, they probably should have just remade Chain of Memories if they were going to for PS2 without the cards. Because it doesn't work with the 3D system.
No, it really didn't. I gave it 3 hours before I actually gave up. I was like, I'm going to still watch. I ended up going on YouTube and watching a 3-hour movie. Not all at once, but it was
I don't know why
for
you're
just a couple days.
Donkey's video on how the entire Kingdom Hearts timeline, and he basically does it perfectly in about 10 minutes.
That is true. Actually, I have seen that video. But yeah, no, it's too late. I already did it. I watched the 3-hour video. And the story parts, I was like, I now understand the opening of Kingdom Hearts 2. What the hell? I needed this back in the day.
Yeah, there's definitely a thing with, having. Granted, like, I didn't play everything. Like, I didn't play much of Birth by Sleep. I didn't enjoy it very much when I played that on the PSP, I think it was. I never played 358 Under 2 Days. I never played Dream Drop Distance. I've only ever played 1, 2, 3, and Chain of Memories in terms of actually beating them. So there's a lot that I missed out on. But at the same time, like, you can recognize, like, if you do a quick bit of research in the same way that, like, when I was playing Trails of Cold Steel originally, like, I would read a little bit up on characters that I missed. And now that I've gone back and played the old games, I get a little more context to it. But for the most part, like, I mean, let's be real. You're trying to use the power of friendship to beat a bunch of Disney villains. There's only so much that you need for context before you start to catch on to at least the main concepts.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, the 3D Chain of Memories, I was not happy with it. It's like I didn't mind the cutscenes. I didn't mind all of that. Like I liked that, but the actual battle system, I couldn't. It was just too hard to try and do two things at the same time. So I wasn't focusing enough on what cards I was even using. Sometimes I was scrolling and just panicking and choosing stuff, or I'd be like getting hit because I'm not moving enough and focusing on the cards. So yeah, I gave it 3 hours, watched the movie. Definitely just wish. Actually, it's funny. You say they should have gone just full like action. I would have loved, because I'm such a deck builder guy, if they had left it more like a Game Boy Advance style or whatever. Sure, make it compatible with TVs, obviously, bigger screens. But if it was actually just a deck builder game, like the battles just played out in front of you as you picked cards instead of you having to move the characters, I would have been completely fine with that too. I'm not against the card system.
Remaster what was there and still kept like the way it was done. But I guess they really were committed to doing just making them all look the same.
Yeah, and they're probably using like the engine they used for the first game or second game.
They probably tried their ass off to make it work, and there was just only so much they could do with it.
Yeah, for sure. But I did watch that entire thing, and then after that I started Kingdom Hearts 2, and I actually understood what was happening, because that entire opening of that game can be very confusing when you have no idea who Roxas is, who Nominee is.
Even when you do have context.
Oh, yeah, it was still a little confusing, but now I actually understood what was happening. I kind of recognized, like, oh, these characters aren't, like, Diz isn't just introduced now. He was introduced at the end of Chain of Memories. Okay, cool, I like this. Now I'm going to learn more about who he is. And it was a better flow with the story. Like, I was very happy with that. My only issue with Kingdom Hearts 2, which is now it's finally over, that first Twilight Town part, which feels like a tutorial, is 3.5 hours.
It's a long starting area before you even get
I
to
could
actually
not believe it.
Sora.
Yeah, it was like, I don't even mind that I was playing as Roxas, but it's like, oh, we have to go uncover the 7 mysteries of the town. Like, there's a doppelganger here, and it's like, oh, it's just your reflection in water. Oh, there's a tournament where it's like, just knock each other until you collect each other's orbs.
There for some reason.
And Setzer's there for some reason. So Cypher and Vivi. Yeah, it's just, oh my gosh. But
in retrospect,
loved it.
Like, why was Setzer there? That was a Zidane spot easily, and they
that
goofed
would have been Zidane. Yeah, maybe because they already had Vivi. And
That's
then
why
Vivi
it
would
makes
have.
sense to have him there.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, that's true. His character would be so good too. I wonder if he's in any of the Kingdom
Because
Hearts
also,
games. Because
like, if anybody's who played 6, like, in Kingdom Hearts 2, Setzer is a ladies' man, but except in Kingdom Hearts 2, or not Kingdom Final Fantasy 6, no one goes after Setzer. Like, everybody actively avoids him.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
they know
everybody's like,
because they know he's a thieving gambler.
yeah, yeah. And here he's just like the champion of struggle, which is the weirdest name for like a competition for just
And he
hitting
doesn't
each
even have
other.
an airship.
No airship. He's just got his like
Bullshit.
foam bat. But yeah, like the intro is just so long, and I didn't mind what was happening, but I really feel like it should have been like an hour and not 3.5 hours, because that's how far I've gotten now. I'm 3.5 hours into the game, which is I just got Sora, and we all woke up, and now I understand why we were sleeping, because I've seen the video for Chain of Memories, and like it's just starting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, the king might be here. He's at the train station and we're in Twilight Town and sorry, you were asleep and all this other stuff is happening and it's exciting again.
It's all right.
But oh my god.
It'll be fine when you go to Hades' world and you get to play with Auron. It's all good. You'll be fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't wait though, because this is the part I don't really remember Kingdom Hearts 2, because I only played it once on the PS2. Because I was so confused, I didn't have that nostalgic feeling to go back like Kingdom Hearts 1, where I've played it probably 5 times and like super bosses, all that kind of stuff. But I'm replaying a game that I know I've played, but I don't really remember. And then as soon as I'm done 2, it's all new. I've never played Kingdom Hearts 3, which I'm very excited to get to eventually. Dream Drop Distance, Birth by Sleep, all of these, I've never played them. And I am excited. And I'm also kind of excited that some of the games, if nobody knows this, in the collections, some of the games, the DS ones and stuff like that, they couldn't figure out how to make a good port. So they just made it a movie. Yep. Some of the games aren't actually playable. And after I watched Chain of Memories, I was like, this will make this easier, because some of the other games are also movies. So it'll be like, play a game, watch a movie, play a game, watch a movie. And I'm going to get through all 10 a little bit faster. And obviously I don't feel like I'm missing out on the really, really good ones that are now movies, because I'm mostly excited, obviously, to get to like Kingdom Hearts 3 and that kind of stuff, which is like really upped the graphics and the games and all that
really
stuff.
And just stand there in the Toy Story world and just listen to the music and just kind of vibe.
Yeah. I can't wait to get there. I've got
like a lot of people really
7 more games
about that game for a lot of reasons, and I get it too. Like, there's a lot of like actual good complaints you can do, but like, in all honesty, that game was comfort, man.
Yes, and that's actually what I'm finding with this. Besides the final boss in Kingdom Hearts 1, I was level 55 and I was struggling. He was just kicking my ass sometimes, where it's like, what is happening? Just lasers everywhere and all this stuff. It was definitely back in the day when they do not hold your hand when you're playing these action games. That was a little bit of a struggle, but I got through it. Very happy to do that. And yeah, so I'm in Kingdom Hearts 2. On the podcast, I'll periodically be mentioning how far I've gotten in this journey. It's all on my PS5. I've even bought an extra power cord and HDMI for my TV upstairs for the PS5, because if I feel like being upstairs but still playing Kingdom Hearts, I'm actually bringing my PS5 upstairs and playing up there. It's pretty funny. But yeah, so I'll be mentioning it a bit on the podcast as I go. I probably won't have this huge chunk of progress like I do right now, where it's basically I got through 3 games, though one is a movie. But I will be still playing other games on the side, and I might even mention those on the podcast going forward too, just because, again, my mind will melt if I only absorb 10 games of Kingdom Hearts story into my mind all at once. I will melt. So yeah. But that's what I've been up to. What about you? What have you been playing?
Honestly, not as much. I mean, I mentioned it on Monday's Retro Rando. I mean, I saw you over the weekend, Chris. You know what happened to me. I ended up injuring my foot and was in a very painful place over the weekend, and was like, you know what? I got a few more important things to do than worry about, if how much I'm finishing. I've also just been kind of grinding away in MLB again some more, just because there's been so many podcasts for me to catch up on, and it's just the perfect game to have a podcast on in the background for. So I've been just doing a bunch of that. So I haven't actually started anything new. The one thing I did get to do though is I finally with my girlfriend, we finally watched Glass Onion recently.
Oh,
which
nice.
I've been needing to do. She hasn't even watched Knives Out yet, but I made sure that I told her it's like, you don't need to see one to enjoy the other. They are separate and
for sure.
Apart from just it's Daniel Craig with a southern drawl, which is just, it never stops being funny to me. And I mean, like,
It's
those
such
kind of
a
movies, like, again, how do you not love whodunits?
oh yeah.
It's so hard to not love a whodunit movie. And then when you have these Knives Out movies that are just whodunits, but also not actually whodunits, but whodunits, because they always take that concept and just go, hey, what happens if we not even just turn it upside down, but like flip it on its side, kick it down the road, and then it gets lost into a black hole in time and space, and we just kind of go into this really over the top concept that ends up going with it. And Glass Onion, no different. I spent the entire time trying to figure out which direction they were going in. I was always wrong because Lord knows you have no idea what they're gonna do next with it. And it just ended up being a fantastic time. Now she can't wait till we end up watching the first Knives Out movie, which is going to be a big thing. And at this point now, I'm just kind of like slowly chipping away at my anime backlog because now that most of the spring animes are now just ending, because now that we're at the end of June, we're transferring into summer season next month, which means a whole other run of shows that I now have to wish list, and I am really needing to start chipping away at stuff that I had wishlisted before all these shows are finishing. So now that all these are finishing, I've got like 9 or 10 shows to try, and I still have a backlog of like another 30, 40 shows that I've at some point have got to kind of figure out which ones I want to watch. Some of them are just for me. Some of them are for ones that I'm like, okay, my girlfriend's definitely going to want to sit and watch some of these too. So, just slowly chipping away at other things instead of games. Cause I think at this point, like my complete log for games, I think has been pretty good for the first 6 months. I think I'm allowed to take a momentary break. I'm sure people are tired of me coming at them with like 5 more really weird indie games that I've come across or whatever else. The only thing I can say is that I forgot to mention it last week. I did finish Little Kitty Big City, which was on Game Pass.
I saw you were playing that, and I almost was like, I need to stop playing Kingdom Hearts. I need to go 100% Little Kitty Big City so that when we're on the podcast with Kaylan, and he's like, what have you guys been up to? We'd both have the same answer. Just surprise
I'm not going to lie,
it, but
there was a moment in time that I finished that game and went, that was really quick. I wonder if I should speedrun it. And then I saw a speedrun of it and said, nope, that's not worth the effort. Fuck that. I'm never going to be that good at it. Somebody finished the game in like less than 5 minutes. I went, nope, no, I can't do that.
All right, now I got to see this. I'm going to look at this after the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, like, if you're just looking for a chill platformer and you just want to meow at things and steal people's fish, there's your game. Have fun for like 3 hours. There you go. But that's pretty much it for me. So why don't we just get into the meat and potatoes of our conversation today? So, like I said at the top of the show, it's been more than 6 months now. We have hit the second half of 2024, which means nothing really, but we got to turn it into something. So, of course, I think we did this last year. I'm pretty sure we did last year.
I think we did.
So we're going to talk about what we think would be the current Game of the Year nominees if this was like the Game Awards. And then we're also going to do our personal top 6, but we'll start with what we think the old Jeff Keighley is going to put on the list as of this time. Now, granted, there's a chance that none of these 6 games that we suggest are actually even going to be there. There's the possibility. It's not likely. I'm pretty sure at least a couple of these games will stick. But there's always the possibility that 6 games from the second half of the year could just be like, no, these are the actual good games of the year.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But, and we're not going to do any other awards. Like, we could spend all day going through what we think is going to get nominated for certain stuff. But really, all you care about is what are the best games so far. So I try to find a good balance of games that have been rating very well, but also games that have, like the size or like the player base or like definitely like, the weight to carry it. So I think I've come up with a decent list. The only thing that I'm kind of undecisive about is going to be that indie spot. And that's what I said too at the top is we're going to do 5 major releases and then try to fit one indie one in there. Not because they always do it, because I don't think they did last year. I don't think there was an indie game on the list, because I think it ended up that being Resident Evil Remake was the Resident Evil 4 Remake ended up kind of taking that slot.
Was Sea of Stars in there, or was that on a different?
Why don't I just check? Since I've got a computer here. I mean, I don't know how we're streaming this thing, but
did they have a best indie award?
There was a best indie. It's just I don't remember what the game is. So the Game of the Year nominees, there wasn't an indie one. So it was Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. Which, to be fair, it's going to be hard finding an indie run for that. And we talked about at the end of the year, like 2023 was just absolutely packed. This year, I think there's a much better chance of an indie game getting a crack at it.
Yeah.
because I can say for certain, like, I picked 5 major games, and that was hard because I was looking at them being like, yeah, like this could almost be a case. I could almost make a case that you could put 2 indie games right now in these spots, but I was able to find 5 that I think are fair for it. We might as well just take the easy one and put the bonus, the free space on the bingo card in there. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, obviously.
100%. Yeah, on my list.
I think that's the one guarantee right now. Like, I don't see that one ever getting pushed away this year. I think that will be one of the Game of the Year nominees. I don't think it'll win, but it's going to be one of the nominees.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, if that one isn't there, I would be shocked. Because, yeah, like that is a really, really good game. I have my complaints and stuff about certain aspects, but does not take away from the other part of the game that was so good.
Now, granted,
good.
Given what's announced for the rest of the year, it's a possibility it could win Game of the Year. Although I will actually be mad if that wins Game of the Year because I don't think it deserves it for a lot of reasons. But I mean, again, we talked, the open world is garbage. Like, it's cool the first time you do it until you realize it's literally going to be the same thing 7 times or how many ever times it is. So it's great when it's on, and it's really bad when it's not. So it's one of those things where, like, you know, I've seen, you know, how well it's been reviewed and such, and I go, I get it, but I also think some of you are nostalging a little too hard on this, because I was very tough on this game because I had high expectations. It did not meet them. It wasn't.
100%.
I'm not saying it's a bad game, but I'm saying, like, it's a game that definitely punted when it should have gone for the extra point.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, that is easily, though, going to be on the list. Out
of all the games that I'm listing here, I think that's the one most likely to stay.
Yeah.
Even though I do have my problems with it. But then again, me having a bad opinion, according to a lot of people, is not that uncommon. So, hey, what do I know?
That's true.
But that was the first one. I assume that was one of yours too, but I'll let you take a crack at what you got there.
So then another one that I'm thinking could also be on your list I think it would have also been on Kaylan's Helldivers 2.
Yeah,
I have on the list. I just feel
that
like
one I'm iffy about sticking. I think it has the staying power because of what it was culturally, but I also think that because of how a live service game will inevitably die over the course of its time, that maybe it won't have the same stroke by the time we reach the end of the year.
You would have to still have the hype, and it would be tough to keep it / bring it back if any of it has died off.
I think that game should be winning unless something really comes out of the woodwork in the next 6 months. That should be a best multiplayer game and not even close.
Oh yeah, multiplayer.
I can't
that's
wait for
one.
when we look at all the nominees and just immediately look at that award and Helldivers. Moving on, because I don't see it. But then again, they could always be like, well, actually, this online multiplayer not competitive game. I'm like, shut up, I don't care. Stop.
No.
But yeah, like straight up, like this is currently my favorite game still, but it's now starting to get to a point where other games are starting to poke away at it and trying to overtake, but it's still sitting there. But like, yeah, this is a game that it really caught everybody off guard. Like, no one thought this was going to be we all figured, okay, looks like a fun game. I mean, I even remember, I'm pretty sure when I did we did our predictions for like Gamerscore and stuff, that I gave it pretty high, like it was going to have a potentially really high rating. I don't think it's gotten it because I think reviews eventually balanced out because a lot of people maybe were just looking for something different. But like, in terms of what it actually was for me, it well exceeded even the expectations that I thought it could have hit. So
yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, I did not expect it to be such a cultural phenomenon of everybody jumping on that.
Yeah,
like it was crazy.
We played that game, like 3 months straight with our friends and didn't move on to anything else.
And it never got boring. Like, we did move on, but it's not like I think any of us were even bored. It was more like we did the proper thing
let's just take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break before we get bored.
Because we know eventually the third race is going to come into that game, and we'll be right back into that.
Oh, we'll be back in a second. Yeah, that'll be. I'll drop what I'm doing and hop in there. 100%. What's another one you got? You think that'll be on that list?
I'll give the last one of games that I have actually played, so I can have an opinion on. I don't think this one will stick, but I think it's one of the better games of this year so far, and that's Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. As being, honestly, I think if I had to put it next to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'd say it's the better JRPG right now. I think it does just a little bit better. I mean, Yakuza already wins off of the minigame quota compared to Final
100%.
Fantasy VII Rebirth, so That already does it. The wackiness, actually, Rebirth tried a little bit, but you can't beat Yakuza in that. And honestly, I think the story ended up being a lot better than people ever would have thought an Infinite or a Yakuza game could have been. They did a really fantastic job with that too. And the combat got better. Like the JRPG elements got way better. It was a lot easier to stomach this time around compared to last time, where I dropped it twice before I finally got stuck on it the third time, because I started like reading into what were some good exploits early on to kind of get a better handle on things. This time around, didn't need that shit. You were able to just kind of grind it out, and it wasn't too excessive. So I feel like that game's done I think a fantastic job, and is definitely in there for the running currently. I don't think it sticks. I think there's going to be, by the time we get to November, December, there's going to be a good chunk of stuff, especially when September and October roll around, that's going to take that out. But I personally think that it's earned that spot.
I didn't have that one in my list, but I do have that one on my personal list. However, I also haven't played it yet, so there is a possibility I would have actually played it and then put it into my top 5 that I think will be there. Yeah, one that I have that I'm not sure if maybe you'd have, this is probably in that same spot there, is actually Tekken 8. And it's not because...
it's in there because it's rated very, very highly. And
yeah.
It's in the same spot that Street Fighter 6 should have had, but the number of games was so strong last year that it didn't make the cut. I think Tekken has a better chance, but that's all going to be dependent on how the rest of the year shapes out. I still don't think that one holds, but I think it has a far better chance than Street Fighter did when it was looking.
Yes.
It looked like it was easily going to keep a spot, and then all of a sudden, just the second half rolled in and just. Whoom.
Yeah, the rest of 2023 showed up. Yeah, it's fighting games always kind of have that love, and it's got really high reviews. And I've never played it. I'm not much of a fighting games guy unless there's like a really cool story mode.
I got friends that are super into these communities, and for the time that game was out, they would not shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is great, because you know what? It's great that for once it's not just like one fighting game is running on all cylinders and the others are toiling about. Like,
yes.
It's weird that Mortal Kombat is actually really not on the radar for a lot of people right now. And now Street Fighter is back in the game, Tekken's in the game. And, it's one of those stages where, like, I'm glad that fighting games are starting to make a bit of a comeback. Like, I'm actually excited with the new King of Fighters, the new Fatal Fury they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's some other stuff that I'm like, okay. And now I'm just waiting to see what Arc System Works does, because you know me, I love my Guilty Gear, my Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, my Blaze Blue. That's the other thing. I'm waiting for a new Blaze Blue, guys. Like, come on. I love Guilty Gear to death too, but where's our next Blaze Blue? It's been a while.
Yeah, I do also love that the fighting genre is back. Again, it's not a genre I dabble in a lot, but
no.
I am glad that it is a very healthy genre right now, where you're right, because Mortal Kombat 1, when I think about the most recent, like the last year of fighting games that have come out and stuff, like Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, those are the ones that are coming to my mind as being the more popular ones. And it's not that the Mortal Kombat game's probably bad. It's also just like there's actually now good competition. So now they're all putting their best foot forward and making these really good fighting games. And all the gameplay I've seen of all of them, they look so smooth. It is insane. I wish I was more into this.
The possibility of like, can you imagine if like even more games, like if Dead or Alive actually suddenly just came out of the ether and were like, we're back, bitches, or Soul Calibur came back with a vengeance.
Or Soul Calibur, yeah, so many good fighting games from back in the day. So it's nice that they're around, they're thriving, and I hope it keeps going. It's a great
time for some companies to start taking a look at their old franchise and being like, man, like fighting games are really getting back in again. Like maybe we should throw a little bit of money. And that's what makes like King of Fighters and Fatal Fury so interesting now, is that it's like, okay, we're starting to see some old legends coming out of retirement again.
100%. What else you got on your list? What's another one you got?
The last one out of my main list. This is the lowest tier, I think. I think it's just mostly because of an artistic value. I think Stellar Blade has a very, very stone's throw away chance. But that's kind of where I'm leaning. Whereas, similarly to Helldivers, in the aspect of like it really hit a chord with a lot of people and it stuck. And I haven't really heard anything like negative to it, but I also haven't like gotten the infinite praise deal with it though. So it feels like it's that like that's the one that's just barely making the cut right now, because there really isn't much else. I looked at Metacritic's like top 150 for the year, and if you want to go with major releases, it's not great right now. So you're really pushing it. And that was the one that I was deciding between, and you might end up bringing this up with Hellblade 2, is the ones I was going between, and I'm like, I think Senua's Saga is more of the movie vibe that like you were saying in the review, so I think I'll have to push something more to the game, and that's why I ended up putting Stellar Blade in that spot instead of Hellblade 2, but I would say Hellblade 2 is in a very, very, very close runner-up.
Yeah, that was actually my next one was Hellblade 2. But I was battling with putting Stellar Blade in or not. Actually, it wasn't Hellblade though that I was putting in and out with Stellar Blade. It was another one that I haven't played, but it just feels like one of those games that's going to get a Game of the Year edition and all that kind of stuff. So I do have Hellblade 2 though. And Hellblade 2, I do completely agree is possibly going to be on there. I think it's going to be on there because of the artsiness.
An art direction sort of award,
yes.
or like a
it's going to be in the
something
awards.
like that.
Oh,
or especially, I don't know who the woman is that does Senua. I'm assuming her name is.
I can't
because I'm forgetting. But I would put her right now as like the shoe-in for winning for voice actress or whatever. Like they're the best.
Oh my god,
performance.
Yeah, because she did like full motion capture. It's like literally this actress. Like you can just see her throughout the whole thing. Yeah, and this one, while the first game only had one character and like no spoilers or anything, but this one does have more characters in it. Not that you're playing with, I just mean like Senna was not as alone as she was in the first game, where it was literally just her. And they were also all full motion capture and acted, and like these are people that deserve to like have Oscar nominations and stuff. So it's definitely like an art film more than it is a game, and I did love it, and I still will stand by this game being amazing until the day I die. I have it on the list for Game of the Year. I don't think it holds it by any means, but I do think that it is going to win the art direction and stuff like that for sure.
Win for sure.
Oh, 100%.
I would be shocked if there's no award given to that game by the end of the Game Awards.
Oh, I would be furious. Do you have another one?
Did you? Well, I already went through my main list, so I'm not at the indie part yet. Did you have any left on the main 5?
I did have one on the main 5. I don't know how we got out of order.
Because we had a couple of copies. Because I had I had Tekken and Rebirth and Helldivers. So
you also had Tekken. Okay. Yeah, the other one I have, and I'm not sure on this. This again just feels like a game that on paper would be a Game of the Year game.
Okay, can I take a guess? Because I'm curious.
Yes.
Is it Dragon's Dogma 2?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to think of like what's left on the board, and I'm like, I think that's probably what you're referring to.
Yes, and it's not like I've played it. I've never even played Dragon's Dogma 1, but I mean, it just has that Game of the Year big medieval fantasy, not JRPG, RPG like vibe to it, like Skyrim and all that.
So technically.
Yeah, true. That's true. JRPG. But yeah, like it just has that same vibe of like, if Todd Howard had this, he would put it in my toaster and on my fridge. Like he'd have everything running this. And it's like Game of the Year material that everybody would get lost in and love. I don't know if it's gone down that path. So I was very
I mean, the reviews aren't super high, and you don't hear about it very often, so I don't feel like it's got that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wasn't sure. This was the one that with Stellar Blade. I was like, I don't think either of these will actually get it, but which one deserves to be on this list right now?
Which one do you put in that spot?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so that was the other one. And again, I've not played it. It just gives me that Dragon's Dogma 2 Game of the Year edition vibes. So I was like, maybe it'll win an award because of it. Excuse me.
So other than that, we have one spot that we've left open for indie games. I think at this point there is a de facto winner to it. And as much as I want to say it's Animal Well, and it is like the better review game, Balatro has gotten so much exposure that I think like that's currently, if there was an indie game to get in there, that's the one.
That's the one I put on mine too, Balatro. And it's funny because I had backup Animal Well.
Yeah, I think we're both in the same boat as like, I want Animal Well to be the one to get it because I want Donkey to have to go on stage and accept an award for best indie game this year. I need that so bad.
Yeah,
but I think Balatro, like if there's going to be a game that I think is winning indie game of the year, I think that's going to be Balatro at this point.
Oh, for sure.
I do want to give a shout out though to Lil Guardsman, which is If Papers, Please was really adorable.
Oh,
and I dipped my toes into that. I'm not going to talk about it yet because I haven't really gotten very far in it, but that's one of the games that I was like barely kind of playing around with and haven't gotten too deep into yet. but that's one that's also been very highly praised, and I can see why.
Oh, nice. And just a little sidebar here. Speaking of Donkey, did you happen to see the announcement of his other game?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought
Which
that was
also
really
looks
cool.
really good.
It looks really good, and I love that he did like a non-E3 video talking about non-E3, and then pretends to have Phil Spencer announce his game,
Yeah.
and then he actually announced a game. I was like, oh, this isn't just Donkey being Donkey. It's literally like he's
And
also got a small
good
trailer
eye too. Like he's like, because people are making jokes about, with all the companies that are not really holding their own anymore in terms of the AAA market, and that there's a lot of people, to the point that you, like, again, Video Game Donkey is a YouTube channel that basically is there making fun of games.
Yeah.
And now he's like taking it upon himself to go find indie devs and giving them the spotlight.
Yeah.
And Animal Well, which was their first release, is 100% going to be a nominee for Best Indie Game this year. There is no way it doesn't.
It will be on there. Oh, 100%.
That is a huge deal that you, as a content creator, your first game that you have decided to help publish is a nominee for Best Indie Game. That's insane. And that tells you, like, the eye, like, again, it's the idea too that a lot of gamers are going back and looking at, and Balatro and Little Guardsman are also examples, like I said here, where it's not about the $50 million experience. It's not about the over-the-top graphical budget. It's like, hey guys, here's a game that you're gonna get lost in. Doesn't have to be whether it's 2 hours or 20, doesn't matter. This is what this game's gonna do. You're gonna forget about everything that you were dealing with just before you turn that screen on.
100%. And I haven't played Balatro, but the Steam Summer Sale will be coming out the day after this podcast goes live, and it is on my list to pick up. And it's like, even if it's 10% off, like, it's already cheap. It's more I just like to build up because of the backlog. Like, don't purchase things if it's not the
to fool your brain into thinking that it's not that you're putting more into the backlog. It was a good deal.
It's like I'm that person on a diet where it doesn't count when it's someone else's birthday, but I eat 10 pieces of cake and drink 20 beers just on that day.
Oh, stop lying. You're just claiming that every day is a cheat day. That's what you're doing.
No, just the whole Steam Summer Sale is a cheat day.
So you're having a series of cheat days.
It's like 2 straight weeks of just purchasing. I have a list on my phone. I'm like, why? And then I justify it. I'm like, it's okay. I can beat this one probably pretty quick. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I do it to myself, and I deserve this. But whatever, it's fine.
Officially. So I mean, we got our full. So my list for the 6 that I think is going to, like, if Jeff was announcing it today, it's gonna be Rebirth, Tekken 8, Infinite Wealth, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Balatro. And I think so with yours.
It's Tekken 8, Helldivers 2, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Dragon Dogmas 2, Hellblade 2, and Balatro. That's a lot of 2s. Because also Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Like what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my god. Like just notable, like, runner-ups that you had there, because the only other one that I had that I just couldn't for the life of me put in there was Aiden Chronicle. I hope that gets at least a Best RPG nomination, and that might even be difficult given that it always has to go up against Western RPGs as well.
So I also made a list of what I would like, which I think we're going to do after. The only ones I had that it was like, oh, maybe it'd make the list. The one I was really battling with was Stellar Blade. That's the one where I was like, I mean, this was pretty popular. People are into the action genre. And then I wrote it down to DLC ones, because sometimes DLC gets mentioned. Or like expansions, which obviously these were more like that. I didn't include them, but Destiny 2's expansion, which is very highly rated, and then this Elden Ring expansion that just dropped. I think they're both like probably really, really highly rated and really good. So if DLC would be counted, those as well. So Stellar Blade and then those
they would have
two
a
bits of
DLC
DLC.
award.
I feel like they need it as its own award, because last year they were putting Cyberpunk 2077's expansion in there, and it's kind of like it's an expansion on a game.
You could say it's like, there's probably only really 1 or 2 good ones. I'm like, yeah, but also it's I'm sure a lot of companies would be okay with that award because it's like, hey, it's free advertising to come back to their games. So
Yeah, and it would have to be like an expansion or extra story or something like the expansion award. Because like Blizzard does that all the time. Like Diablo 4 is getting some expansion you can pay for. And it's not just like, well, I don't know about the new Diablo because it's kind of lost itself, but the old Diablos and StarCrafts and all that, like the expansion was huge. And then Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk. Like these are literally like more game. So I can understand why some of them end up with other games, but it's also kind of like, I don't know. I
sure,
feel like
there's
it
an
needs its own
argument to, like,
category.
well, there's not enough every year. I'm like, let's be real. Sometimes there are award nominations where you're like, you're only there because they needed a fifth.
Yeah,
It always happens.
It's still extra advertising. Even if they lose, it's still their DLC up in front of Jeff Keighley for everybody to see. Yeah, right? So, yeah.
But alas, so I guess we'll finish off by saying what we think is the current 6 for us. So
yes,
I'll immediately get 2 of them out of the way because we've already talked about them, at least on my side. Helldivers 2, which is currently my game of the year. And then Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is my 6th. So those are the 2 that we've already spoken about, and those are the ones that are on mine. So Chris, are there any that have overlapped so far?
Just Helldivers 2. I also have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I don't know if you still have that on yours.
No, actually, it's
interesting.
On my list, it's 8th. That's how lowly I think of it compared to other things this year.
Well, this was also hard because I haven't played nowhere near as many 2024 games as I thought. So technically, I don't have a list of 6 games that I have played that are on my list. Yeah, it's more like 4 that I've played, and the other 2 I'm like, I'm gonna play this, and I know I'm going to love it. And I've also heard from you how good it is.
So I mean, yeah, if you want to do that, you can just say like, hey, like give what you think at this point is going to be your 6, if you have to. If you don't have enough room, then just kind of throw in what you think. I'm sure Assassin's Creed and Star Wars Outlaws has some room in there for you.
Yeah, they will fill it up later. But and we're going by just what's already released, right?
Yeah.
If
you need to like add some stuff that's like potentially in there if you don't have anything else that you've played, then yeah, I understand.
Oh no, I'm good. Okay. I've got two that I haven't played, but I'm going to play, and I have played.
That are already out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just say, if you want, I can just say what mine are.
Yeah.
I've got Helldivers 2. Obviously, I think that you and I are going to agree on that till the day we die. Final Fantasy VII,
which will be all the time because that's how much we die in Helldivers.
That is true. So I've got those 2. Hellblade 2. I'm going to stand by that game. I don't think it's game of the year for everybody, but it definitely like resonated with me, and it actually kind of like left me still thinking about it. And so it's definitely going to be something I look back on in the year because again, it's just like a big emotional, artful kind of movie that I, moved the character forward with and everything. But yeah, it resonated with me a lot. And for me, it definitely deserves a place there. So I've got those 3. And then Julian, I don't know how to say this. Julian Chronicles, how do you say?
Chronicle?
Aodin Chronicles, that one, I've played 3 minutes. I loaded that up and I literally was like, this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And then some characters started talking. I'm like, this looks like Breath of Fire mixed with like the 2D HD. I was in it instantly. It took me 2 seconds, and I've heard all of you gush about it.
Can't wait for Dragon Quest 3 remaster, eh?
Oh, I may buy that during the Steam summer sale, like pre-order it because I just will want it. But yeah, that one, and then Yakuza Infinite Wealth, because I do love JRPGs and I love Yakuza. So I haven't played it yet, but I know that it will be in my at least my 5.
Did you play the first Like a Dragon?
No, I have only played Yakuza 0.
Yeah, because you've only done 0, and you were sort of dabbling with Kiwami, the original remaster.
Yeah, I'm a couple hours into that. It's just I'm doing it in order, and I don't know if I should still do that because I do want to also play the newer ones, but also I have the older ones, so I play those.
It helps because there are characters that do show up in because they definitely do meld the 2 worlds together. They're not like completely separate entities.
Okay.
So it probably does make more sense to play through the other games.
Yeah. And then for my indie one, I did try and keep it indie. I could not pick one that I've played from this year that I think will actually beat out like Balatro or Animal Well when I actually get to them. So I'm still going to reserve that for one of those, even though I haven't played them yet. I'm going to play them soon. The only other one that maybe could fit in there, and I just wasn't sure if it was even indie, is I'm really into the Vampire Survivor style game. I don't even know what to call it, just the Vampire Survivor like. And Deep Rock Galactic came out with one called Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, and you're one of the dwarves running around. It's auto attacking, and there's bugs and everything everywhere. It's the same thing. I'm just not sure if that would count as indie. I know they're definitely a small studio. They're probably more like double A, I was thinking. So that's why I didn't necessarily go with that. But, I'm going to end up loving that game too. But I'll probably give it still to Balatro just because I'm going to get addicted to it. I'm going to get it on Steam Deck, and it's probably going to just like ruin my life. In a good way, I guess. Depends on your definition of ruining my life.
I'm just waiting for the day that somebody figures out how to take a Picross game and turn it into a roguelite and just really screw with you.
Considering I have played through...
Can you imagine that? A Picross game that is just procedurally generated, so there's never really an end?
No, I don't want to imagine that. I don't want to imagine that, Adam. Because... I just finished the Story of Seasons one earlier in the year that came out late last year. It was delightful, but it was still 500 puzzles. I needed it to end so I could go on with my life. And if it doesn't end, that's not... I can't buy that.
Nintendo,
that's one of those...
He needs a Nintendogs Picross game. Get on it.
Oh, there we go. That's how you get me out. I'll just avoid that one. All right, what's on your list? Your six.
Like I said, Helldivers and Infinite Wealth are the two consistents. After that, Aiden Chronicle is going to be on my list at this point. There's a good chance that one sticks because I really, really, really love that game. And like you said, it's drop dead gorgeous. There's a point. Oh, yeah. I don't know if I sent you the picture that I took of it. There's a specific boss battle where you're facing like a massive enemy, but you're also fighting on chandeliers like it's Mario RPG.
Yes, I did see that screenshot. That was so golden.
There are just moments in that game that I'm like, I can't believe I'm playing a game in 2024 that looks like this. Like, it's just insane to me. But that one stuck with me. I'm pretty sure that one's going to make it to the end. The other ones are going to be weird. So Helldivers 2 and Aiden Chronicle are the two that I think have a very, very good chance of staying. Helldivers, I think, is a guarantee to stay. Aiden, 100%. I give it around like a 75 to 80% chance it's going to stay too. Everything else is 50-50 depending on how the rest of the year goes. Like I said, Infinite Wealth. Penny's Big Breakaway, which is that game that I was showing you guys that it's like if Tony Hawk's like manual, infinite, combo you can do there mixed with Sonic the Hedgehog 3D. And that ended up being way better than I thought it was ever going to be. So that's been sticking around. Open Roads, which I think is the easiest one that's going to lose its place. Because it is a really, really good experience, but it's not really much of a game so much as it's a good story, similar to what Hellblade 2 is to you. So
I loved Open Roads. I loved that one.
And Zet Zillions, which is the weirdest thing because I've never really been like super into going constantly back to roguelites. Every once in a blue moon, I keep looking at that game on my desktop and going, do I want to just play another run of that? Like, it's like how you can sometimes do with Slay the Spire, for example. It's that kind of game that just, if you stare at one day, you're like, fuck, maybe let me just go mess with a run of that again. And that's what I think about every time I go to play something and I see that on my desktop. I'm like, maybe I could do a run of that instead. It's really stuck with me. And I think, again, because it has that very Trigger Studio anime vibe to it that just vibes with me so well that it's just stuck. It won't stick on my list most likely, but I mean, stranger things have happened. But if we had an award that was for an art style, it would almost win it because Aiden Chronicle's still going to take that. But still.
Almost win it.
But yeah, that would be
That's
my
a good
6.
list. That's a good list.
It's also been a really interesting year so far in the fact that my list is so different from what it usually is, where it's a lot of the time, like, I'm trying to, like, let me see, because I think I stored our big games from last year. I think I kept them. No, I think I might have erased them. Boo, this is why.
No, boo.
But, like, I'm pretty sure that my top 3 was, like, Hi-Fi Rush, Spider-Man 2, and something not like... But, like, it was all, like, pretty big games. Whereas, as of right now, none of the games that I think will be in my top 3 are probably going to be AAA. I mean, Helldivers, you can almost put into there, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's not.
So, like, but, like, none of the games, like, even, like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I wouldn't even... I guess it's at the point that you could say it's AAA, but it's not. It's still not really looked at like that.
No,
But like that's the
I wouldn't
closest thing
say
I
so.
have to a game that I've put on this list that is AAA. Everything else is either indie or, in the middle.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
true.
it's showing a massive difference because I always have like that one. Oh yeah, it was Hi-Fi Rush was my game of the year. Space for the Unbound, which was made by the same guy or the same publisher that did Coffee Talk, and then I had
Yep.
I think Spider-Man 2 is my third. But yeah, but like it's definitely at a point now where instead of it being like, okay, here's two big games that everyone knows about and then one small one, now it's at the point it's like it might be leaning in a direction where I could even have two games that most people haven't played. So
Yeah.
we're definitely getting in a more interesting case, and I love the fact that now that I have a lot more freedom to play, some games that are out of my comfort zone, and I'm finding some of these gems here, and it's really paying dividends because like obviously a couple of years ago I had Eastward, and obviously last year Space for the Unbound was a big one for me. It's great now, especially with Game Pass, that there are all these things that you can try that you would never bother with before. I keep saying this before, but like I wish Sony would also have a much bigger library of games like that isn't just, games that are now 2 years old, like having games that are freshly out that are also in the indie side of things and just
Yeah.
really go ham on stuff. Because there are some incredible experiences that most people will never play because they don't want to spend $20 on a maybe.
Yeah, on a maybe. Yeah. Yeah. The Game Pass I was actually looking through, and besides Hellblade 2, all of the Game Pass games I play, they're indie. They're just these indie or like double A games maybe that I see on there that I'm like, I saw that on Steam and wishlisted it, which usually means like I may not get to it for years. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try this now. I may love it. I'm just gonna hop in there, and 9 out of 10 times, obviously, I love it, and it's just like such a blessing. I freaking love that service for that reason so much more usually than the actual AAA whatever offerings that Game Pass would normally have. So yeah, totally agree with you there.
Yeah. So that's it for me. So unless you got anything else here, I think we might have our episode.
That's the episode. That's
Well,
it.
that sounds like a plan. So we're going to take this sucker off the air. And when I say off the air, I mean for about 5 minutes until we re-record side quests and then we put that up on Friday. But hey, I should probably stop peeling the curtain back. I'm sure Kaylan's yelling at me. How when an anime character, like when somebody's talking about them, they sneeze? Kaylan probably just sneezed in the background being like, is Adam breaking the fourth wall again on the podcast? What the hell? But anyways, that's going to do it for this week's Pixel Play Podcast. Obviously, if you are watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us on any of your audio platforms, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, obviously give us a good rating if you are able to. Share it with all your friends. And don't forget to go to linktree/pixelplaypodcast. That's linktr.ee/pixelplaypodcast. Link to our Discord, link to our socials, link to wherever you can get our show. So we will see you guys next week. Or keep in mind, Wednesdays at noon, Fridays at noon, and Mondays at noon is when all of our content drops. Wednesday being the show, Friday being the side quest, and Monday being Retro Rando, where I usually get actually good games recently because we actually had 2 weeks in a row because I got Pokemon Stadium on Monday. So we're on a good roll. Now watch me play some completely dog shit NES game.
Yeah, you just cursed yourself. Also, I'd like to throw out just a quick little shout out to the thumbnail you made for your Pokemon Stadium video. It's like the greatest thumbnail of any YouTube video I've ever seen in my entire life. It just makes me happy.
That's bullshit because you still as a wallpaper on your computer you have one of the ones I did where I mixed Baldur's Gate and Starfield. So don't kid yourself.
That impresses me. That's just a very impressive wallpaper. The one for Pokemon Stadium brings me absolute joy. So I just had to throw that out there. It's perfect. It's perfection.
Well, you guys can look out to for Retro Rando, not just for the amazing gameplay, aka me usually waffling about an old game, but also the thumbnails, I guess, because I always try my best to at least do something unique with it. So, but anyways, that's gonna do it for this week's episode. You guys have a good one. We'll check you out on the next one. Take care. Bye bye for now.